Hello, everyone. Evening, guys. Just waiting for James and Sam to join. Bear with me. There's James. Just waiting for Sam. Evening, mate.
How are we doing?
There we go. We've got a full house. That's probably the quickest we've ever done it. So, anyhow, good evening.
Still aren't working, but there we go.
A long time. This is something we wanted to do a few weeks back, but unfortunately, the Queen decided to go and die on us. I don't know if you've heard. There might have been in the news once or twice. So out of respect, obviously we cancelled it. But now everything's out of the way and we can watch normal TV again. We thought we'd try and get together. So big thanks to James and Sam for joining as regular contributors. Our Australian chum, unfortunately, is out saving lives, which would be this morning. Thank you, Rafe. The 8-year-old kid has just put "well done, Dad" on the back there. He hasn't shithoused me yet, but I'm sure that's coming. Yeah, so Christian can't join us tonight or this morning as he is in Australia, unfortunately, but I'm sure he would have loved to. But just a quick introduction. So it's me, Mark, obviously one of the guys who helped run DWC alongside Dan and Gary. James, you want a quick introduction? And Sam, just a very, very brief one?
No.
Yeah, been on a few of these now. Sam, 24.
Not blind,
yeah, well, yeah.
Sam, 24.
And I'm an alcoholic. No. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I work in insurance, which is obviously nothing related to what we're talking about tonight, but there we go. There's not really much to say, you know. Someone died this week, apparently, as we've already mentioned. But yeah, no, absolutely not. Yeah. So I mean, no, we're not here to talk about the us as individuals. We're just boring men. But there we go. On to yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, what's it like down there in 18th? It's mind you, if Forest go ahead against Leicester, then
that's one of the things that's not in discussion this evening. Unfortunately, West Ham United's inability to be good this year. But thankfully, that's the one bonus of having a bad foot at the moment. That I've missed a couple of games. Actually, I've only missed Spurs and the Steaua Bucharest game where we've actually played quite well, but I don't know what's going on. It's just too negative, unfortunately. But anyhow, less about West Ham. Less talking, please, now, Sam. James, you want to do a little quick, brief one?
Yeah, so got a mouthful of that.
So that's James, ladies and gentlemen. That's James there, who's literally about to lose about 3 of his fillings by the looks of it. Right, anyhow, we'll crack on. I'm sure he could do a little bit later on once his mouth managed to avoid lockjaw. So the reason we sort of come together is obviously a couple of weeks back, Corgi released the 3rd and final catalogue of 2022. So what I'm going to quickly do is I've already shared the pictures on the Instagram stories on the page for anybody who's forgotten in the midst of everything that's gone on and the chaos that's engulfed the country. I'm going to run through them one by one very quickly, and then we're going to talk about the last catalogue, and then just a bit of an overview of the year and their releases. So in catalogue 1 in January, they managed to blow our minds with 3 new toolings, and that was the Spitfire 9, the Spitfire TR9, and the Harrier. I think it's from the GR3 up to GR7, but they weren't released in that catalogue. The only 3 releases in that catalogue were the P51 Detroit Miss, sorry, I can get that out right. The second one was the Vulcan, the Black Buck 2, which was the one with the Shrike missiles. Is that
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. And the third one was the Sterling Gremlin teaser. And then, so we was quite disappointed by that, and I think it sort of all just blew us away. But the logic behind it was that they could catch up with the 2021 releases and get back on track, which they seem to relatively have done in the first 6 months of the year. Then in the April. It was an Argentinian Chinook, or Chinook if you're too posh, a Royal Navy 172 Harrier, which was rolled out after a number of years, the B-17 Milk Wagon, which is very similar to Bitter Lace, and the Black Night Fighting Defiant. And then, of course, a couple of weeks back, they announced what they called the Golden, it's usually called the Golden Quarter for those in retail, and it was a bigger release of 7 aircraft. And that was a night fighting Hawker Hurricane of Glede, the Spitfire 9, one of the earlier retoolings of Johnny Johnson, the ME-109G of Werner Schroer, which will be a hot potato, I'm sure, when we get to it in a minute, the Albatross of Otto Kissenberg, a Desert ME-110, a Fokker D7 of Kurt Mollington, and an all-black Buccaneer of number 16 Squadron. But still to be released this year, you've got the Harrier and 148, which wasn't in the final catalogue, the Spitfire TR9 Grey Nurse, which wasn't in the final catalogue, and also the GNA Typhoon 148, which was meant to be a 2021 release, but we're told it's going to be Christmas. So that's all the releases for this year, which is actually 16 new releases, 17 if you include the Typhoon. I've actually done my maths there. I'm sure you're quite impressed with that, lads. Right. So we're going to start working our way through it, and so I'll hand over to the boys to do more of the talking. If you've got any question, guys, please put it in the comments below. We'll add them to the questions we've got from Instagram and Facebook, and we'll sort of adjourn at the end to answer those questions. So, lads, so the first one on the list is the Hawker Hurricane Night Fighter of Glede. James, I'll hand over to you, as you absolutely jizz over Hurricanes and love them more than a Spitfire, which is completely and utterly wrong. I just want to make sure you know that. So yeah, talk about the Hurricane, mate.
It's good. It's actually really, really good. It's easy to pick at diecast when there's something wrong with it, but at first glance, they've nailed it. You know, bear in mind, we're only really looking at a picture, but the picture we are seeing, it's good. It looks pretty much spot on. It's got the right number of engine cowlings. It's got the camo rudder, the messed up squadron markings. It's looking like it's got a lot of potential to be a big, big hit, and it's a fantastic scheme for the Hurricane. It's one of the most
what's the story? What's the story behind the distempered squadron code? Because I was sort of a bit confused on why the A was so sort of messed up.
I think it was a field job, wasn't it, James? Just something to do with the poor paint they used. It was a temporary paint.
That's it, exactly it. And it just fell apart, and they just sort of kept with it. Couldn't bother changing it.
Yeah.
What
so just really sort of just slapped it over the black wash.
Yeah, pretty much. And
I actually think they did put the dope covering over it, didn't they? They didn't bother redoing the L. They actually covered it with the dope covering, didn't they? So they couldn't reapply it. But I like that because they did that with the. I know the Desert P40's got its issues. I forget the name of the pilot now. You might better help me out, yeah.
Neville Duke.
That's it, Neville Duke. was the blue splodge on the back of the left-hand side of the fuselage. Everyone was going, "Oh my God, look at the muck-up they made it." But it's absolutely bang accurate, and this is when Corgi are at their best. This is absolutely where they're at their best. Also, we get to for a little bit further down the line in a couple of aircraft where we talk about some errors, but we're not seen the pre-pro yet. But I love it. It's the first night fighter in the new mould. The new mould is tremendous. I know there's an issue with the join at the tail, but I think it's the nuts.
Yeah, but if the camo is done well enough, the join isn't that noticeable, to be fair. I think when it was first released, everybody did sort of whinge about it. You know, it was pretty bad, but as it's gone on, it's not actually that bad, to be fair. You know, it could be a hell of a lot worse.
Overall shape's spot on.
I'm really looking forward to that particular release. It's good. I know the messed up squadron letter isn't going to be to everybody's cup of tea, but fair play to Corgi for sticking with it and not just sticking a generic, you know, A on there. And yeah, it's going to be. I think it'll be a really popular sale.
No, I think it will be as well. Sam, is it one on your hit list?
It's a bit of a winner for me. You know, especially with the rudder and the canopy, which Gleed sort of left in day colours. To pick that up is brilliant. Love the sort of the red spinner on it. It's a really nice looking bit of kit, but I'd stress that's the artwork, and delivering it is a whole nother matter. You know, like we saw with the most recent Wellington, what was shown and then what was actually delivered. So yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, it looks fantastic, but it's just bringing it to fruition as it's shown is going to be it's going to remain to be seen. But it's a brilliant one for me. Great bit of history, fantastic pilot and one to choose, and yeah, I think probably the outstanding one of the September-December range for me.
Yeah, unbelievably simple, really, isn't it? Other than the codes, that's the only complexity in it. It's a very, very simple scheme, other than obviously the red around the nose area. And of course, for those who went to air shows many years ago, that scheme was in the old real aeroplane companies, Hawk Hurricane, when it was based at Brayton. It was then bought by a guy called Tom Blair, who ran a company called Spitfire Limited, and they changed the scheme to a green and grey scheme. And unfortunately, it was lost at Shoreham. So green and grey Hurricanes don't have a great record, unfortunately, for some reason. But yeah, it's a beautiful looking aircraft, really, really striking in the sky. I think it's a brilliant scheme. I'm surprised though, with going with the night scheme, I'm surprised I didn't go with the BBMF one. So I don't know if there's an issue with the Mark 2 to 4 mould or whatever it is. So I thought that would have been the most logical choice, but that's an older mould, isn't it, the 2 to 4? So I don't know.
It's been missing in action for quite some time now. I don't think they did one for the RAF 100.
No,
it's
last one was
probably
the Wayland Hurricane when it was with the BBMF, and that must be 2014.
Well, bear in mind the Wayland Hurricane wasn't the BBMF Hurricane either.
No, it was very, very similar.
Yeah, so that was the World War II Wayland Hurricane. The Mark 1 Hurricane that we've got, I can sort of see why Corgi haven't done it, because the new BBMF one is in 303 colours, and it's very, very similar to the 303 Hurricane we've already got.
Yeah,
very similar.
That's why I bought a new one to code 3, so it's with my BBMF shelf. But it's a simple code 3, just losing one serial, the serials and the letter. So
yeah, the Hurricanes are sorely lacking on the BBMF front. I wouldn't be surprised though next year if we didn't see a Mark 9, a BBMF Mark 9. I'd be willing to bet half of my collection on it.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be the desert one though. I don't think the desert one's commercial enough to do as the second release of the Mark 9s for me. There's much more iconic Mark 9s out there.
Agreed.
MH434, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
totally.
which would have been so much better than a Johnson release. Obviously, we'll get to that in a minute. But
Yeah.
no, so I think we give that a big thumbs up then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid one. If it's right, then yeah, it'll be a bit of a classic, that one, I think.
Wicked.
So
Alarm went off for me tablets. I thought I'd muted it before. My bad. Yeah. So on
no.
to the second release, which is the one right up my street, which is obviously the brand new tall-in Spitfire Mark 9 in the iconic Johnny Johnson's D-Day scheme with the beer barrels, which is a nice touch. I think this is going to knock the Gemini out of the water. I really think it's going to be a fantastic release. I am slightly disappointed that it's Johnny Johnson. He's one of my favourite pilots, but I've got about 6 or 7 Johnny Johnson aircraft sitting on the shelf already. So, I mean, it's different though. I mean, it is different to your standard Mark 9 with obviously the beer barrels and the lettering on the fuselage. I forget which lettering it is now, but it's slightly different underneath the canopy. So look, it's going to be a killer release, absolutely spot on. Of the two Spitfires, it looked like it had dihedral rather than, or dihedral, whatever you want to call it. Looked like the wings were spot on that one. So I think that's why, I think for 2 reasons why the TR9's been delayed. I think flooding a catalogue with 2 types of Spitfire would be a silly move. I think it will turn up in the January 2023 one, which makes sense because it gives you a chance to shift a load of Mark 9s and it'll be every other that they try and put them through. But no, I'm happy with it, but I can see the criticism as to the scheme they've gone for, because let's be honest, it's lovely, but it's been done to death.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's sort of nice to give the RCAF a bit of a nod, but yeah, it's a subject that's been, you know, to pick for a first run of it. There's just so much more you can do with that, you know, particularly regards to the sort of BBMF, and yeah, it's. I mean, I guess I suppose it's nice that you can, from the Deco Master shots, it looks like the beer barrels are removable, so you can sort of take them off if you don't want to display it that way. But yeah, as long as they get the dihedral correct, then yeah, it's. I think it's going to be finding a way into a lot of people's cabinets, most definitely, because it's a decent representation of a Mark 9. And I don't know about the previous Corgi Mark 9, but it was the old one, wasn't it?
That's a pancake.
So yeah. And of course, the less said about the Mark 5, the better. I think.
Yeah, well, they've learned from their errors around removable cowlings that really doesn't work, especially in this scale. You know, in the 148 you can get away with it because actually it adds to the detailing, but in 172 it just doesn't work. They learned that with the Mustangs, the Messerschmitts, the Stukas. What's the point? You know, there's not enough detail in there to make it worthwhile. I mean, to be fair, Forces of Valor have done something very similar, and they've nearly got it right with the newer releases because it's relatively smooth now. Yet the earlier versions were a bit shit, for want of a better word. But now Waterson's taken over. The removable cowlings look really, really good. They're a bit tight to put on, but at least they're tight. That rather than an horrible seam down the middle of the fuselage. But no, I completely agree. I think, you know, I've not seen it in the, you know, I've not held the thing in my hands and looked at it, you know, really close. But from the pictures I've seen from Diecast Diaries and what Michael has sent me initially, I think, you know, the promise is it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. And there's not been a Spitfire to match a Gemini there's never been a Spitfire to match a Gemini. They set the standard with it. So I'm really looking forward to it. James?
I like the new Mark 9. Looks good. The 3D models, etc., look fantastic. It's got a lot of promise. The choice of scheme they've gone with, though, I think is poor, really poor. It's more like a gimmick sort of Spitfire. The Johnny Johnson beer barrel one should have been more like a like a collector's club Spitfire. You know, something different, a bit, you know, a bit of a gimmick, a bit of a toy. And we've got what? Well, I think we've got what? 4, 5 Johnny Johnson. 5. We've got 5 Johnny Johnson Spitfires that Corgi have done already. We don't need another one. There was a million other Spitfires that they could have done. You know, it was a Mark 9. So yeah, I do think it was a daft. The Mark 9 is going to be a great mould, no doubt about it. It will be fantastic. The choice of scheme, though, no, I think it's a bit crap.
I think just sort of playing devil's advocate a bit here. I really sort of solidly believe that it's a decision made on a purely on a business standpoint of how many of these we can actually shift. Because putting the gimmick in like that with the beer barrels, people will go, oh, that's a bit interesting, that's a bit different, and hopefully snap it up. So I understand, as frustrating as it is when there are so many more Mark 9s and so much more you could cover. Yeah, I understand why they've done it. But, you know, with the German releases we've come on to, you know, we could have even had like a bit of a med one. But it is what it is, unfortunately.
I think you've got a brand new Mark 9 tooling. You're advertising it to everybody. This is your newest Spitfire in God knows how long. It's the best Spitfire they've had in God knows how long. Why, in God's name, they did not go with MH434, I do not know. That is the most iconic Spitfire on the planet. It's a combat veteran. It's still flying. It suits every collector. It's a survivor. It's a warbird. Everybody would have been happy with that. I don't know why they I don't know why they didn't do that one.
No,
yeah.
I don't know if it's a Spitfire aimed at enticing people into collecting rather than the people who already collect. I think I think where Sam was saying that, you know, how many really, if you don't go to air shows and you're not really, you know, knowledgeable like us lot, would you really know that? I think someone just said that, you know, MH434 is for someone who's much more knowledgeable, who knows that Spitfire, who's watched The Longest Day and A Bridge Too Far and knows that's the Spitfire that comes in over the top of, you know, straight over the top of the boy on the bike or over the beaches at D-Day, you know, strafing Rommel's car. Everyone knows that's that Spitfire. If you're into that. But if you're someone who just goes to Southend Air Show, which hopefully will come back, or Eastbourne or something once a year, you wouldn't really know what MH434 is. You'll just look at a Spitfire and go, oh, that's unusual. I didn't realise they carried beer barrels. And I guess maybe that's the reason they did it, to try and bring people into the hobby. Although bringing them into the hobby for a £60 model, that's dubious at best. So it's I get why they've done it. I really do. I guess for us existing collectors, it's more of, it's a bit of a novelty, I think is the best word to put it. It's something a bit different to sit on the shelf.
Out of 10?
Out of 10. Mould, I'm going 9 out of 10. Choice of scheme, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'd probably second that.
Yeah, I'd third that.
I'd only go 9 out of 10 because I've not seen it yet. And I've not picked it up, I've not held it, I've not examined it at close quarters, looked at the detailing. But from what I've seen, I mean, I look at my Gemini shelf and I just think it's going to be difficult to beat that. But then I thought that with the Mustang mould, and the Mustang come along and absolutely knocked me for 6 with the accuracy of it and how good it is. So, fingers crossed. Let's hope it's an absolute winner, and it will be joining their collections at some point. Christmas.
It's good. I hope the landing gear can match Gemini, because Spitfire landing gear is fiddly as just fiddly.
It's not ME109 landing gear though, James. So, you know, that's
true.
It used to be Mustang landing gear, which, you know, if anybody who's got a Dragon Mustang out there will appreciate my concern with that, because that stuff gives me a nervous breakdown. Every time I walk in here, one of the Dragon Mustangs has collapsed.
I mean, the Gemini shape is great. I'm not a massive fan of the movable ailerons. I'm not on that train.
No, I'm not.
But Gemini did execute that really well. Not so much on the Mustangs, which tend to break, but they did execute it well in the Spits.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But it has got breakability written all over it, isn't it?
Oh, gotcha.
I do prefer the Mustang with the interchangeable flaps. I think that's a really, really good touch. I quite like that because I always put my stuff on gear down if I can. In the logic that if it does fall off the stand, it will land on its gear. That's the theory behind it. Doesn't actually work, but just go with it on that one. But yeah, let's move swiftly on before we run out of time. So this is the real hot potato of the group. So it's the ME-109G of Werner Schroer, representing an aircraft based in Greece in 1943, I believe. For those who went to air shows, this also represented a scheme that the real aeroplane Bouchon wore before it moved to Duxford. And it represents the factory scheme, which it left the factory before going to Greece for. So there's a lot of discussion around the camo scheme. Lads, I'll hand over to you so you can explain why it's not quite right.
Yeah, I mean, I think ME-109 5G is the more sort of apt description of it because yeah. Yeah, well, for those of you who aren't aware, I'll get the I've got the catalogue. I'll give you a bit of a. So
you see there, if that's on, you've got a second mast just here,
which has actually appeared on the final production model. How? I've absolutely no idea. Quite obviously a bit of a factory blunder there, which is unfortunate because, you know, aside from the mottling, which is a whole other debate, it's actually quite a nice representation of a 109. It's just with that there, it's kind of it's a bit off-putting. And on when you're asking for £60, no, no, I'm afraid. Yeah, I suppose I think these still will probably sell ultimately because it's not immediately obvious if you're not an enthusiast that shouldn't be there. It's just people might look at that and think, oh well, it's just a 109 with another antenna. Maybe he's got like a separate. Maybe he's a squadron leader and he's got another radio in there or something. I don't know, but yeah. So JG27 in Rhodes, as you say, but yeah, just really unfortunate on that really because I think it perhaps had the potential to be really nice. The 109, incidentally, is quite obviously a big seller for Corgi anyway because
good stuff. Spot on. It's a really good set. The desert one, I don't think we've been.
Yeah, I don't think we've not had one for quite some time. There's always been one just sitting there in the catalogue. It's been a while since the new one came out, which I believe was
2021, the desert one last year.
Oh no, the first one, the Russian front one.
Oh, the Russian front, yeah, you got the Russian front desert, and you got the D-Day one as well, the one that landed at Manston.
Yes, indeed. As well, as I say, there's two desert ones. You've got Marseilles, and then you've got the black. Is it Black 6?
Oh yeah, that was a few releases previous.
Also got
the 6-pack, I think.
You've got the Mosquito Hunter 109 as well.
The all silver one.
Oh
yeah. Black 6 was about 2014, I think.
Yeah, that's a beautiful 109.
That's spot on. All of the last few ones, the Winter War one was not over-weathered, it was perfect. The Desert Marseille one was, I mean, like I said, you can't get that for love nor money now. Great colour, really good, unusual scheme, and obviously an iconic aircraft because that's the one he went down with. So, I mean, look, it'd be interesting to say, I've asked, for those who are on, I have asked Michael if he knows why. What I do know is if it is a factory mistake, and we haven't had any statement or, I'd imagine this might be picked up in diecast diaries at some point. There might be logic behind it. We might all look like dipsticks when in fact actually this particular aircraft is one of those iconic things like the Glede Hurricane with the green and brown tail rudder. Sorry, it might be a one-off thing, like you said. You might have had a high-power radio. We don't know yet, but it's looking more likely that it is.
Yeah, but
Corgi
they're going to take into account.
We don't know, China, if it's this area or this area. So in their wisdom, they went and put both of them on. I think that was the theory we sort of come up with.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Look, I mean, you've got to give them benefit of doubt to the same thing. I know Michael, if they have made a mistake, Michael will be frothing at the mouth and livid if they have made a mistake. But we're given that benefit of doubt until we know that. Yeah.
Well, Luftwaffe's his baby, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I think Corgi, if he had his way, would just ditch everything that is not a Luftwaffe bird. He would just have Corgi called, you know, he'd just rebrand Corgi as a German name, and he'd just have nothing but German planes just throughout God knows when. But yeah, the new one is
Corgi looks like.
Yeah. It's looking pretty bad, to be fair. And we'll see.
I mean, I've had a look on the forums, and they've been ripping it apart in terms of, you know, they've been putting different profiles up, and then obviously you share some profiles with me and stuff like that. I really like this scheme. And I remember obviously the Bouchon, when it was owned by a real airplane company, used to come to Legends every year when it was based in Yorkshire. And it was a really nice looking, unusual scheme. So it, you know, the other thing I think that needs to be discussed, I know Christian's not on here, and he'd be frothing at the mouth, it's around the mottling. So I think it's fair to say that mottling seems to have gone backwards in terms of paint schemes. I mean, Hobby Master's attempt at it is nothing short of, I think they just flick some paint on it, to be honest with you. Theirs isn't particularly great. This looks very, very basic in terms of the mottling. I'm not seeing the aircraft up close again, so I can't really comment, but only from the pictures that I've seen. But that's an interesting one, isn't it? You know, in terms of all the development of tooling and painting and large-scale manufacturing.
It seems to reverse.
It's gone backwards. Weird, isn't it?
But I think that might be a more of a cost thing rather than because obviously way back when you've got the old 190s, which were just absolutely fantastic. The old Corgi ones, they're brilliant. It's really, really stunning. And we were probably picking those up at the prices that you used to be able to get them. We're probably a bit spoiled. In that sense, but from the art, I mean, you can see. I mean, that's probably going to be a final production one because that was already good to go when it was shipped. But it's not amazing, is it? Which is sad. It's not to slate Corgi. It's quite sad because the Corgi 109G is absolutely fantastic tooling, and as I was saying, it flies off the shelves.
Yeah,
so it must be 15 years old now as well.
So, not another train. He's made a valid point. He said, surely a Defence of the Reich scheme, 43, 44, would have been better, which I agree. If you look at the Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler set, that 109 is absolutely phenomenal.
I think that's the best of the lot.
It's an awesome 109. And it's the only one we've got that really, of the newer mold, that represents that Defence of the Reich.
Yeah, it's getting at a time with something like Milkwagon as well. Something that might have come up against Milkwagon potentially. There's so many amazing German aces out there as well. I mean,
there is the other one that's got the great big cannon pods underneath it. You know, I think it was the Collector Club one.
Yeah, I know, the one with the yellow and black nose.
Yeah.
Based in Romania, was it not?
Yeah. It was. But that was a bomber interceptor one.
Yeah,
but
that's fast.
I mean, that's hard to find.
There was two as well. There were two very similar because one was Collector Club as well, which I haven't got.
Yeah. So the Defence of the Reich one, I think that would be a damn good choice for Corgi to do at some point. But again, we'll see how this one goes because we're only going off pictures for now. I think once it comes out, we could get together and just do a one-off video about that one release and just.
Not another train has gone Surau cannons wrong way round. I've actually got the 148 Hobby Master Surau release, the very recent one, and it's actually pretty good. Obviously, other than the pilot who looks like he's being sick, But it's actually right. This scheme wise, it's not terrible, especially for Hobby Master. And it was I wouldn't say it was a good attempt at mottling, but it's a damn sight better than what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
But
the Emils are
yeah,
shocking.
yeah. But
The finish on them, I know. Again, that's another one our Australian friend was going mental about. I forget which. It might have been the Galland release. Actually, he was going ballistic about that time.
Yeah.
About 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, sort of green.
Australians.
Someone had got a paintbrush and just sort of flicks and paints it.
But again, if you've got 1,000 units,
poor adults,
to get them all exactly the same with mottling, I'm guessing that's that personal touch. So where someone like Noel, use Noel as an example, when he was talking about weathering aircraft, Noel was weathering aircraft. He wasn't going through a machine. It was Noel sitting there doing his bits with them. Corgi won't pay for that because that adds manufacturing cost. And also, again, no two aircraft would be exactly the same, would they? If you've got the personal touch on them. So, look, I get it, but I guess your feedback's got to be constructive, right? And it's certainly something that they maybe have a look at going forward to strive for that little bit more accuracy.
Mm.
So, quite quickly, do you want to rate the release?
As it is now, 0 out of 10. However,
that's harsh. That's savage.
Well, yeah, but people are paying a lot of money for that, and it's
60 quid.
It's a colossal foul up if they've got it wrong.
Colossal. I'm gonna go with 4. Purely on the basis that the intention was there, and the subject matter, especially with the tie-in with the 110. Yeah. But
however,
the execution, it's not there.
If they get it right, and if the pictures are wrong, and it arrives and it is actually all right, and it doesn't have 2 aerials, then I'll up that to a 7, 8 out of 10. Yeah. Because it is a good scheme.
Yeah, it's a lovely scheme. Really nice scheme. Yeah. Really nice scheme. Yeah, I completely agree. I think 4 out of 10 is probably right now until we get an understanding if it's right or not. But that's collected for us. That we love it. We don't really say too much when it's right, but when it's wrong, everyone's got a lot to say, haven't they? So, yeah, let's move it swiftly on. So I was going to do World War I next, but I'm going to jump to the Desert ME-110. Finally, we got our Desert ME-110. What I would say I'm slightly disappointed about is that it's exactly the same scheme as the Hobby Master one, which is a bit... and the other warning I would say is that the colour on the video, so Corgi did the announcement video 2 weeks ago with David obviously showing the pre-pros. Whether the lighting was weird, the colour looked massively off, like hugely off. Almost like a primer paint which they put on the Typhoons nowadays, the one they come out of water. Yeah. The colour looked massively off, but that's the whole idea of pre-pros. Someone like Michael would be all over that, and again, frothing at the mouth, going ballistic. But yeah, it's gonna be a lovely release because the Corgi ME-110, I did a picture of the shelves of them the other day with 20 odd on there, whatever it is absolutely sublime. It's a brilliant mould. Always a great seller. The Night Fighters have been a massive success. The winter one didn't go down quite as well. I don't know if it was to do with I think the weathering, they tried to weather it and it just looked just a bit.
Yeah, it was a bit too uniform, was it not?
Yeah, a bit too straight.
A bit too symmetrical.
But I get what they've done. I think it's still a nice release. It plugs a big gap in the collection as well. I'm sure this is going to be a really good release. I'm absolutely confident it'll be a great release. I'm just slightly disappointed it's the same bloody scheme as one I've already got.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said. I can't really add to it, to be honest. The 110 is an awesome build by Corgi. Always has been. It's always sold well. The scheme, agreed. The scheme is just odd, really. There was hundreds of different ones they could have done. Dozens in the African theatre. So to go with exactly the same one as Hobby Master, odd. Yeah, just odd.
On the plus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. On the plus side, I mean, if this is true, I mean, it's had some modifications to the tooling. You know, you've got the bombs underneath that are on the pre-pro. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on tropical 110s, but I think they have bigger oil coolers, or they've got
Yeah,
a different
filters.
nose, or
Yeah, they have
yeah,
that.
if they've got bits like that, right, then I think it'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree. See, the scheme I was really looking for was, I mean, I haven't got a picture of it here, which is a shame. There's quite an iconic photo of two ME-110s flying over the Bay of Tobruk, I think it is. The scheme is a basic desert scheme, but it had like green mottling on the wings. So I don't know if you've seen, there's an SAS program coming up on BBC where Dan, bless him, they sent all the Bouchons from Sywell down to various places like Bentwaters and whatnot to have them filmed as like a desert airfield. And the Arco repainted their Bouchon a couple of seasons back, didn't they? And they did it in a basic desert, and then they added the green blotches to it. That was the scheme I was looking for, that similar sort of desert stroke green mottling scheme. That would have been tremendous. But maybe this is getting back to the ME-109G, maybe that was an issue in terms of manufacturing and getting that right. So that's why they've gone for a basic colour. Because actually by doing that, you're not going to get manufacturing issues with it. Maybe they've changed factories, maybe they're being more...
It's just a matter of getting the tone right. Like that one you just mentioned. Would you want it with Corgi's current state of mottling?
Probably not. Probably not. And
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, and that's probably why it's not been done. You know, there's schemes out there that manufacturers won't touch, like splinter schemes and God knows what else. You know, like the Ukrainian schemes. Some of them are really difficult to manufacture and get absolutely spot on. So maybe now that must come into the equation. If you're adding 10 different paints to an aircraft instead of 3, that's got to come in. That cost has got to factor in. It has to. And also the times, and, you know, drying time. There's so much that goes into it. So I'm guessing maybe that's why, and hence the reason we've got an all-black Hurricane and an all-black Buccaneer. Because actually, you think in terms of cost when it comes to them, it's simplistic, isn't it? Now, how many all-grade jets have we had released over the years, which are all the bloody same? But it's one paint, and that must factor into the manufacturing cost. So, I'm just speculating there, but look, I'm sure it's going to be a great release if they get that colour right. Because like I said, that gave me sleepless nights watching that video and looking at that. What can only be described as primer finish on the ME-10. It was so very off. Regardless of lighting, you could tell it just was nowhere near right. But it will. I'm sure it'll be an absolute stonking release. Certainly one I'd look to get once things improve and back to work and whatnot. But yeah, it's taken too long to get to a desert ME-110 though. We've spoke about it for years, haven't we? So how would you rate this release, James?
7 out of 10.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, 7. That's 7 for me all day long, I think.
Yeah. It's safe, but it's iconic enough for people to go after and buy. Cool. Sorry, I'm trying to note that down. I haven't been noting them down, which is pretty poor. Right, bear with me. Right, so the next one, Michael's not on. Our good friend Michael Lowe from the Facebook page, who collects nothing but World War One, doesn't know even what a Spitfire is, bless him. So we cover both World War Ones together. Not because I'm not keen on World War One, but I'm just conscious of time. So we've got the Albatross, which is the Albatross with the Edelweiss on, which is currently at Shuttleworth, which is owned by the Great War Heritage or something. I forget the name of it, but they're based at Stone Maries in Essex.
The Great War Team.
No, it's not the Great War Team. It's another company, and I forget the name of them. So apologies to them because it's absolutely beautiful. It's a replacement albatross for the one that flipped over in Headcon, I think it was a few years back. And it's the all black one with the Edelweiss on. It's absolutely stunning. So at the moment, it's at Old Walden at Shuttleworth Collection if you want to check it out. Beautiful looking scheme. And of course, we've got the Fokker D7 of Kurt Monington as well. So obviously, I know World War One isn't our specialist subject, so we have to pretend we know what we're talking about here, lads. So what are your opinions on both these releases? Possibly 148 as well.
Okay, I don't do World War One. I'm not going to pretend that I know a great deal about World War One, but to the untrained eye, which is mine, they both look really, really good. I think they look really impressive. I'm sure there's going to be some World War One fans there that will tell me that they're wrong. But for an idiot like me that doesn't know anything about World War One planes, I think they look really good.
The issue is with World War One, especially when you're sort of you're looking at these and you're doing your research, is there's so much conflicting stuff on there, and a lot more so than Second World War. But I mean, to my eye, they look really decent. I'm a big fan of the lozenge camo for both of these, which has been sort of absent in the range for quite some time. The albatross, particularly with the eye device, looks brilliant. They seem to have tidied up the radiator as well on the top wing, because I've got the one of the more recent ones they did. That was the Richthofen one with the sort of the green and purple wings, and yeah, it's nice. But it looks like, if the artwork is to be believed, again, with take it with a big dose of salt, that they've sort of refined that a little bit more. I noticed as well, because I've got one of the new Fokker triplanes. They've really come on in terms of the wood grain effect for the propeller. The World War One, the Corgi has seen a massive amount of investment recently. They've really sort of gone all out on it with the Bristol fighter and the Eindecker. Slightly surprising that there's no British stuff. It's just these two Germans. It would have been maybe nice to have another Bristol fighter. I know the Camel is sort of getting on a bit now. I think that was one of the questions we got on the Camel, whether they sort of have a look at that, because I mean, in terms of it's basically the Spitfire of the Great War, or how it's perceived, even though the SC-5 is probably the better airplane. But yeah, it's lovely. But yeah, just the lack of British stuff, man, and no Bristol fighter. I mean, I know we've just had two of them, so probably
3, isn't it? Is it 3? Is there a third one?
No,
it's 2, isn't it? Yeah, it's 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the third one would be a 2
you had the Royal Flight, and the Charlie Chaplin one. So yeah, I don't know. It's not really nice if you collect World War One. Another point there on the pre-pro, that the red on the D7 looked pretty faded. But again, I feel like people get their knickers in a twist all the time about pre-pros, and it must be how it's going out, but in reality it's not.
They used to be hand painting, didn't they, pre-pros? I don't think they are now. I think they're more manufactured paint finishes now, but they used to be, in the early days, the pre-pros were hand painted, like my Dakota, my Air Atlantic Dakota. It was originally, underneath it was a BEA one, so it is literally just the old pre-pro style was literally send it to your best painter at Airfix. He'd give it a scheme and send it back, and you'd review it, and then you'd send it off to be colour matched, and then a manufactured version would come back to check over, and then you'd send it back, and then the final product would come back. That's how it used to be done. I don't.
Some of the models on the 2021 reveal video look like Airfix kits that had been very, very hastily
they were
thrown together.
When Al sent me in, they were. I don't think I'm getting the impression they don't do that anymore, because that's another 50 quid, isn't it? If you think about it, if you take an existing aircraft which is sitting in your inventory and get someone to paint it, and then you send it off to the factory, who then send another version of it back. I'm guessing now they go, right, this is the paint, send this off, this is the decals we're going to use. They might apply original decals. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, actually. That might be something for Michael to cover on Diecast Diaries, how they go about it. It's a great little subject about how they go about their plans for pre-pros. Do they add elements of the Airfix kits to them if they're slightly different, like you're talking about the radiators for the ME-110? I honestly don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Now I've got 3 I've got 3, potentially 4 pre-pros. So I've got the P38, C47, the Israeli Mosquito, and the pre-pro of the Southeast Asian Command Hurricane, which I didn't even, 3 of them I didn't even realise were pre-pros until I was trying to sell them. So that's why I've kept them. But a lot of them are hand painted. So, but yeah, I'll send that off to Michael. It might be a good subject to cover off, because I know obviously they did a section on assembling a Lancaster probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now. And the process around assembling how a Lancaster is produced with the tooling and put together. It was really, really interesting. So maybe it's something to get us die-cast dogs infused in die-cast diaries. And for those who don't read that, that's released every month. I think it's 2 weekly, but there's an aviation one released every month, which is on Friday.
Aerodrome.
Yeah. So you've got Aerodrome as well, but he's also now doubled up on die-cast diaries. So one is generally more car-based, and then the second one is usually aircraft-based, and then every 2 weeks. So well worth reading. Some really interesting bits. Michael, I know, works his socks off doing them. So well worth having a chat. I usually share them on the page anyhow, but well worth looking into. And yeah, sorry guys, I'm conscious of time's getting on, and you guys have got work in the morning, unlike me, who's a late about bump for now. So in terms of the World War I releases, I'm going 8 out of 10. I know, speaking to Michael on the page, he thought the Kurt Monington one was quite a left field release, but he loved it nonetheless. Really happy. I think they're a good 8 out of 10. They're going to be class. They'll sell. World War One is probably Corgi's banker, to be honest with you. It's their 148 at a 172 price. Details really good. They always seem to fly out. So I'm going 8 out of 10.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'd probably rate these a 9. Purely on the basis that I do collect World War One, so I'd be happy with either of these if they sort of turned out really nice. Particularly the Albatross. I just think that's absolutely stunning.
That's the best.
Really nice. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with these. I would have liked to have seen another Eindecker, because I feel like the first 2 Eindecker choices were maybe maybe from one of like the early sort of pioneers, and a bit more weathering on it would be spectacular. But we've had 2 of them, so I don't know, further down the line. But again, there is a lot that. It's a really safe catalogue, but there's a lot that didn't appear. So, yeah, but yeah, I'm happy with these. As far as World War One goes, I think I'm much better with the, as I say, with the Lozens on there, and they will actually pair really nicely together. I think that's what they're going for.
I completely agree. Right, on to the final aircraft in catalogue 3, and that is I've got to talk about jets. Is Matt on? I don't think Matt's on, is he? I've seen him briefly come on earlier. But it's actually, to all fairness, is the all black Buccaneer from number 16 Squadron. For me, again, it's a no-brainer release. You've got both Tornadoes, you've got the Jag, you've now got the Buccaneer, you've got the full house now, the Typhoon technically as well, the original black Typhoon. Be interesting to see whether they do the one which eventually become Blackjack as well, because that will add another black aircraft technically to it. But I think it's a brilliant release, really simple. I think Buccaneer is a real lump of die-cast. My fear is that it will be the last Buccaneer released in 172 before we see it in 148.
Possible. It's a good scheme. I really like it. I don't collect jets. I've got 1 jet in my collection. It's a Tornado. It's the anniversary one with all the final flight Tornado with all the squadron crests on it. It's the only jet I've got. But I am looking at that Buccaneer to sit in with my all black theme. Which then means I'm gonna have to get the Tornado. Then I get the Jaguar.
Both Tornadoes. There's 2 Tornadoes, yes.
Yeah, just one.
1 or 3, I forget what it is. Obviously, there's the Mildenhall one with the Saints on as well. So, yeah, there's 2 Tornadoes if you're going to be a complete list.
Yeah, so I am looking at the Buccaneer. I do like it. The Buccaneer does tend to have a...
We know you collect Tornadoes, Jason.
I've got one. I've got one tornado. And I don't even like that.
I've got 2 shelves now, which is more than enough for me. Which is I never thought I'd actually have jets. There was a few years back I said I'm not collecting jets. I've now got 2 complete bays of jets.
I've got one. That's the only tornado I've got. One. And it sits next to my Lang. I don't want any more.
Huh.
But
Not
no,
mind
I
the
like
Dan
the,
Busters ones, but I'm not paying 150 quid for a bloody tornado. So
I like but the Buccaneer, I like it.
yeah, I
Good,
think it's
solid
great.
team. Good choice.
I mean, yeah, as I say, it's a really nice choice. I can see why they've done it. I wouldn't buy it personally. I mean, my jet collection tends to be more sort of modern, geared towards things you can still see flying, and maybe a bit further back into the 90s. But yeah, it's quite an obvious one. But I really think it will go to 148. I really do. I mean, it's not going to be that they are going to carry on with this. That they are going to plow on. They've sort of they've made their bed with these now, if you will. And I don't think it's not going to be the Hunter just because of all the bad press with Shoreham and everything. So yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think we are going to see it probably with the folding wings as well.
I
That'd be
think
really
it'll
nice.
be Tornado, Buccaneer, then Jaguar. I think Tornado's next because the last Tornado was a black Tornado as well, wasn't it? Which come in after the retirement trio. So I think Tornado.
Yeah, Saints. Yeah, the other Saints one.
Yeah, but again, they've gone. I'm surprised they went Harrier first. So it wouldn't surprise me that January's new tooling is actually a Tornado 148. Because I think there's going to be a 148 every year now for the next 5 years. I think there'll be a one. I think it'll just be 3 a year. That's the most logical thing for me. I don't know what will be next in the World War II or World War One schemes.
I know some people were quite disappointed with this one because they felt like there were a lot of maybe perhaps grey-green bucks, sort of more active duty ones that hadn't been done. So yeah, but again, it's purely from if you get your business hat on and what they've done before, it's just something that they hope or think's going to perform quite well in terms of sales. But yeah, nice enough. For me, probably a 6, but I'm not really down too heavily with the Cold War stuff in terms of jets. So, but I know a lot of people would probably rate it a bit higher, but yeah, it's just me.
It's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'd say 8, maybe 9.
So look, that concludes everything from this catalogue round. I'm not going to go over the scores from the first part of the year, but there's 16 aircraft, including obviously the 2 that didn't make it, the the Harrier and TR9. So what's your overall score for Corgi this year? I'll go last on this, so I don't want to just go, oh, this is what I think. So your overall score, so 16 aircraft, 2 of which didn't make it. So an overall 14 in the catalogue this year. James, you're first.
What overall out of 10?
Out of 10, yeah.
7.5.
Yeah, I'd probably go 7. I think the early stuff. This current one, the September December has brought it back a little bit, but yeah, the first 2 catalogues are really sort of struggle. The only one that I've ended up going for is the Defiant. So yeah, to get one release thus far this year, kind of it's not amazing. One that I felt that I'd be happy to sort of bring into the cabinet. Yeah, it's not great, but I feel like, as I say, it probably would have been a 5 before this latest round for me. So yeah, 7, I think.
So Andy, Plane Collector, has just literally taken the words out of my mouth. I was going to say 7 out of 10 as well. And I think the disappointment in the first 2 catalogues blew me away a little bit. However, there was logic for it. And I know we spoke about it at the time, saying that the logic around catching up and almost, over-promise and under-deliver and switch that round. So almost under-promise and over-deliver. I think they've done that. I think the releases this year overall have been really, really good. The Mustang in the early part of the year is brilliant. The Sterling's brilliant. The Vulcan has been really well received. RG Chinook, bit of a random one, but again, well received. The Harrier was a bit of a funny one because it's a crap tooling, but actually, overall, people really thought it was good. B17, a great scheme. The Black Defiant is unreal. Certainly one I want to get to. And actually, of the 7 they've released in this catalogue here to us, other than the question marks over the 109, they've finished like a steam train. They've absolutely gone for it in the biggest quarter of the year or the biggest third of the year for them. So I think they've redeemed it. I think if they've released 3 in this like final third of the year, I think that 7 out of 10 becomes a 3 out of 10 because it would have just been wow. The only thing I would say is 16 aircraft, despite different sizes, is pretty much what Hobby Master knock out in a month. And I know they repeat the same toolings over and over, so it's the same as 2 Phantoms every month. So they release 20 Phantoms.
What was the output for Corgi for 2021? Because I know it was. I think it was like
either 21 or 22. So
yeah,
it's 6 down. So in reality, it's probably a catalogue down. But what they've done, that catalogue down, they've slowed down in order to catch up, to maybe get on top of the factories, let China catch up post-COVID. You've got to remember that the impact on China was hideous, and it completely screwed the world. COVID screwed the world. So I guess their logic around it, as much as we're frustrated because there isn't 20 releases in the very first catalogue, the logic is actually quite right. Also, what I would say is that there's not been any increases in prices from catalogue 1, which is good. So we've got to the end of the year without an increase in prices. January will be the tell where we go with that. My instant feeling, I mean, there's one of the questions in a minute, is that we're going to see another 5 added onto a 172 scale Spitfire. I can see that coming because inflation's through the roof, cost of shipping stuff from China to Europe, and
I mean, dare I sort of say it? They almost read the room a little bit with the sort of general reaction to the prices going up.
Yeah.
And maybe put a bit of a freeze on it.
So we were sorry to interject there. We were talking before we went on air. We were talking about the Hobby Master Tempest. And it's a beautiful scheme, a beautiful model, but you're looking, because there's nobody importing it to the UK now, you're looking at £80 plus for a 172 Tempest. Now, if Corgi announced that, the uproar would be outrageous. Hobby Master have sort of just let it sort of slip, and yeah, there's a few people shouting and hollering about it, but there isn't quite that hate and disdain for it, which I struggle to understand. I mean, we'll get to one of the questions in a minute around the cost of the hobby and that, which is, we're into dangerous territory now, because once it starts going one way, there's no turning back, because that it hits the pockets of the companies. It becomes profit, even if it becomes cheaper to manufacture. Nobody in their right mind will turn down profit after the 2-3 years that we've gone through recently with COVID. So we're in the dangerous territory of that. But I think there needs to be a little bit of balance. I'm now in a very different position financially, where I can't go around spunking £200 a month on models anymore. I can't. I look around me now and I don't know where I'd put 10 models if I bought them this year, because I'm that tight for space and I'm moving as well. So it makes no bloody sense to hoik more in if I've got to pack them all up again. So different strokes, different folks and all that. Some people, they'll carry on spending regardless because it's their extra money they earn a month and they want to treat themselves and it makes them happy, and absolutely go for that. But it's we are in a dangerous territory where I think James nailed it once when he said, those collectors who started in 2000, some of them are dying now, but we haven't got that influx of new people coming in to fill that place. And that's dangerous as well, because there's less demand on the models that we want, which means they can't do the runs of 2,000, 3,000 like they did before, because it's just not profitable. So there's so much to take into it. But look,
Yeah,
I think they've redeemed themselves at the end of this year. I really do.
yeah. I mean, what we have to remember is they don't have the like the shop floor presence really anymore. It's basically air shows or online.
A toy fair, yeah. But that's
Yeah,
good to get.
or you do get them occasionally coming up in toy fairs. You get them appearing sometimes in like collectible auctions, but yeah, they don't have that sort of visibility anymore. People have to seek them out rather than seeing them in a shop window.
Model shop is dead. Yeah, Model Zone did
Yeah.
so much for this hobby. Let's not underestimate that. I would love, WH Smith bought Model Zone on the name, and they just didn't do jack with it, and it really upset me because I thought it was going to make a comeback. And but then I don't remember the last time I went to shopping at Lakeside, for example, because walk through Lakeside, half the shops are bloody shut now. Retail's a different beast. It's an absolutely different beast. But look, I'm conscious of the time. We've gone past an hour now, which is good. So before we go on to the questions, Sam, do you want to go over this bit in the back of the catalogue that you've got around this new Corgi rewards thing?
Indeed. So I think I can sort of get this on the camera and maybe have a chat about it at the same time. I don't know if I'm have to prop it up
Back to front, mate.
Back to front, yeah, there we go. Yeah, to read it, read it. It's generally backwards. So I'll be not scribe, spokesperson. So
Sam
there we go. I'll my CV will be in their inbox tomorrow. But so on the back of the catalogue, so Corgi Hobby Rewards, earn points, be rewarded. Our new loyalty program is on the way. You get 10% back for every £1 spent at corgi.co.uk and other Hornby Hobbies websites. Plus, you get access to a great range of exclusive benefits and VIP rewards, including early access to selected new product launches, days out and attraction offers, members-only gifts and products, exclusive promotions and offers, and then at the bottom is just be the first to know by signing up to our emails at corgi.co.uk/newsletter. Then you've got all the Corgi family in there. Airfix, Corgi, Hornby, Hoombrol, Scalextrics, plus some other brands which I've never heard of. But yeah, I think Pop to do like the big model cars, if I'm not wrong. But then, so it's basically buy anything that's under the Hornby umbrella and get the money back, almost like the same way the Tesco Club Card works, I suppose. But yeah, it's welcome. It's not the collector club. What are our sort of thoughts on this sort of up and coming development that we've got here?
I don't know yet, to be honest, because hearing it from you, that's the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah. So
I think it's something I'm gonna have to look into a bit more if I can really give too much of an opinion. But it seems all right. It seems like a good way of Corgi making a few extra quid and us gaining at the same time. So
the one thing I'm excited for, if it's purely sort of Corgi, is members only gifts and products, right? Because if some of the collector club releases, you've got like War Eagle and things of that nature were brilliant. So if they can bring that back, but then for Corgi it might just be like a Vanguard's Fiesta or something, So who knows? But yeah, 10% for £1 spent. So if you buy, say, a Spitfire at £60, you get £6 back, and then if you get sort of 5, you're sort of pushing on to halfway towards buying another one. So yeah, it's welcome. But then it does mean obviously going to Corgi direct, and perhaps that's sort of an enticement for people to buy direct from Corgi.
Yeah,
I think that. So yeah, It's great. I will say as well. Obviously, we had the bank holiday promotion with the Whirlwind. I think that was a good thing to do. Obviously, they were sitting around in the warehouse. It must have been for quite some time since I think it was 2018 they came out. So yeah, that was a nice thing to do. I think they're doing a free Morris Minor at the moment. I don't know if they're still doing it, but all orders over £30. So I've had a Whirlwind and a Morris Minor that I've paid nothing for, which is good. It's welcome. That kind of stuff is, especially in this day and age, is very welcome. Both of which for freebies are great. So yeah, more stuff like this, more discounting. We have seen quite a lot of discounting as of late. Yeah, with the Lightning and the Phantom, they both sort of come down quite significantly in price. So yeah, I think the hobby rewards scheme very welcome, and obviously it's not been launched yet, so we don't know the full ins and outs. All I've got is just this on the back of the.
When is it launched?
It says on the way, and it says be first to know by signing up to emails at corgi.co.uk/newsletter. So I assume maybe I think it might be a 20. I think it's going to be. It might be something they do to coincide with the 23 catalogue. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
I mean, the only thing I would say to that is it feels like Corgi are the lesser brand. So you've got your Airfix and Scale Electrics and Hornby clubs. But Corgi sort of, just a little bit of discounts and money back. And this is where it comes into where Airfix seems to really have benefited from the pandemic. I think Hornby really benefited from the pandemic. Scale Electrics really benefited from the pandemic because parents were at home with their kids. Parents were at home building model planes because actually they couldn't go out to the park, they couldn't go out doing anything other than go to a shop in a mask.
Yeah.
So Corgi didn't really benefit. If anything, it probably hindered it because of the production and the slowdown and stuff like that. I mean, that's my disappointment because actually, if I look at some of the best models in my collection, you talk about War Eagle, you talk about the BBMF Blue Hurricane, and the Dam's Length that's with the red upkeep. They're quality, absolute quality. They were different. 500 only produced. They were much
Scaring's Gladiator.
The Dam Busters Tornadoes. There's so many different bits you can talk about, and not so much the all gold Mustang. We won't talk too much about that, but there's so many great releases. I wish they'd do more of them, more that would. So people are scrapping over that 500 release. I thought initially the ME110, the winter one, was going to be something similar because it was a Corgi exclusive to the website, wasn't it? And then
initially, before it did eventually go to the trade.
Yeah, so I remember speaking to Al Buchanan about that and Andy Beck, and they couldn't get them initially because it was just Corgi only. So that disappoints me, but at least they're doing something. At least they're trying something new, and they're being a bit more creative rather than just let the same things happen over and over again. So that's good. That's really, really good. So. No, cheers, Sam. Thanks for going through that, mate. Really appreciate it.
That's right. Yeah, it was just as much as a surprise to me as it was to you guys. It was I sort of happened to flip over the back of the catalogue and I thought, what's this? So something on the horizon. Literally, James. It just says launching soon. So when it's going to appear?
Can you take a picture of that and stick it on the Facebook page?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll put it up on obviously Insta. I'll nick it from there and whack it on Insta.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
brilliant. Cheers, guys. Right, so we've got some questions. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the moment. So, guys, anybody who's watching, who's got any questions, wants to throw them in now. I have my pen handy, so we'll answer these as a team. So, the first one is from Andy, who's also known as Plane Collector on Instagram. If you don't follow him, give him a follow. He's got a collection of diecast and Airfix. He does some lovely models together. So Andy's asked, is the pattern going to continue in terms of rising prices as it's killing the hobby? Not to rain on your parade, Andy, Yes, I
Yeah.
think that has to.
Yeah.
Every business is struggling post-pandemic. Costs in terms of just shipping stuff from China to here, material costs, fuel costs. There's so much that needs to go into it. Russia going to war with Ukraine. That's what Brexit. We blame all these bits, don't we? OPEC. Yes, I do think they're still going to go up. I think Hobbymaster have really struggled with it, especially with the importing now, because I don't think there isn't an official importer for Hobbymaster at the moment to the UK. So I think Tiger Hobbies have put them on hold, if I'm correct.
I don't know. That's a Gary at Tiger Hobbies question. I'm not too sure what's going
There
on
was a
there.
lot of incidents. I mean, like a shipping container had gone like double the cost or something stupid. So, look, Andy, I'll be honest. Like I said, don't want to rain your parade. I'd be incredibly shocked if there isn't a £5 rise on the 172 model and a £10 rise on something like a Vulcan, so 240 to 250 in January. It will not be shocking. Yeah, on the flip side of that, you talk about second-hand market. The second-hand market is absolutely bombing at the moment, which is bonkers. You'd think it'd go the other way. But the second-hand market is, you can get some real bargains at the moment. So it's a really, really strange scenario where we're at the moment with it. I don't know if you've got anything else to add to that, guys.
Yeah, so just to play on that second-hand market, if you recall a few years ago, the Gemini Aces Plagueis Spitfire. You remember the Plagueis Spitfire?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That
the BBMF scheme, isn't it? 5J, I think it was, with the D-Day strike.
Yeah, and that thing would go from anywhere between 100 and 200 quid. It was just ridiculous, the amount of money that thing would go for. I was watching one this week, and it sold for about 40 quid.
Wow.
You know, it's just the way it is at the minute. The prices are like that. They're either really, really high because people are just expecting the impossible, or they're really, really low. I mean, I've noticed a lot of things now on eBay, they're starting them at £1. They're just starting the bidding at £1, and then they just go from there. Though the Goodwood Sands, the Goodwin Sands, the
Dornier, yeah.
Yeah, that's still doing all right.
Sorry? A little toy shop in Blackpool. You got me that one, didn't you?
Yeah, it's gone, that shop now. It's long gone.
Wow.
But that Dornier, that sold yesterday for about 150 quid. So that's still doing all right. Just depends what it is. I mean, there was a JU52 that I was watching, Cosford one. I was just watching it out of curiosity, and that sold for 65 quid, brand new.
Yeah, the one I draw on is the Corgi. I think it was 132, the Barkhorn 109 set with the crew figures and everything. That's come right down. Like that used to be like
that's 200 quid north of that, wasn't it?
Oh, 200, touching 300 all day long. Yeah, that's absolutely plummeted. Things that are, as I say, there are still things that are doing well. Any like D-Day Dakotas are still pretty hard to come by. Just Jane, things of that nature are still commanding pretty chunky premiums. And then as you say, the a lot of the B17s, but like the really hard ones to get are still so something's going on. It's the middling stuff, the stuff that used to be quite expensive, but it's now down. But not the super rare things that everyone sort of gets starry eyed over. But it's the sort of middling stuff that's
Cool. Sorry, just to interject, elliptical photography. Is the 354th Bottisham?
Hey?
So elliptical photography has asked about a 354th Fighter Group Mustang. Is that Bottisham? I'm not familiar with the 354th. There was so many bloody fighter groups.
I don't know. The 357th. That's the checkers. Not the black and white checkers. Sorry, the red and yellow one. the blue nose at Bodney. I'm not really that clued up with the 354.
No, you could put if you can put that in the comments, mate. He spoke about the Hun Hunter from Texas, and I think that might be Bottisham that was based at, but I can't say for certain. It's certainly not Martlesham Heath, because that was the likes of Damn Yankee and whatnot from there. So, and yeah, so moving swiftly on, one of the questions on Facebook was Andy Brown. He asked about the QC regards to the two aerials and the new 109. I think we've answered that. Boxford, there you go, and then moved to Headcall Lashenden. Okay. What colour Carolines were the 354th? Is it yellow and green? Boxstead? I can't remember.
Was it not the red and blue?
No, that's Martlesham Heath way.
Or yellow and brown?
Red and blue. That's red and blue diamonds. So like Damn Yankee was one of them, for example. I can't think of another scheme, but right. And yeah, so we got Matt Allen. So he said, "Why is there such a contrast on box art to the pre-pro?" I think it's initial research, because you've got to remember the box art is released before the model's even made. So they go to the best source of information they have. And then what happens when the pre-pro is released, it goes out to the experts in the aviation team, whether that be Mr. Clegg or one of the team. I think Tony Osborne, for example, at the Ulster Aviation Society is one of the guys. There's a guy called Shuttle on the model hangar forum as well. So these guys get these and they do more research on top of that. So what happens is, for the initial box art, like for example, Leeds Hurricane, they will go, actually, rather than have a full serial, this is what happened to Salty's in, and his serial decided to dissolve. So that's what happens, things change. And then when the pre-pro comes, it could even be completely different, because they found some more information in between. And then when the pre-pro goes back, it could come back different still. So it's very difficult for them to change. But if you look at the B24, which was the Jimmy Stewart one, is that Malcol?
Malcol.
If you look at the towel, when they did the box art, the towel was left to right, or was it right to left? And they had to change it on the box art. They had to manipulate it and change it on the actual box art, because they got it wrong. So they can change it, but it's very, very difficult once they know these boxes.
Box art tends to be more. I mean, for a lot of these, I'm looking particularly at the Johnny Johnson Spit. It tends to be more sort of computerized rather than the actual model itself. I mean, some cases they do use the model as the box art, like in the case of the 109. But if it's not quite ready yet, it's just purely a computerized sort of mock-up, and it has to look good, because it has to sell it. The pre-pros don't necessarily have to sell the model. It's more of just here it is, it's in development. This is what we're doing. So I think that kind of clears up that discrepancy. Although, yeah, I'd say some people get really sort of wound up about pre-production samples and what have you, and say, oh, this isn't right. But I think that could be done in a more constructive way. Like, you might want to look at this. I know there are people that actively sort of try and converse with both Corgi and Hobbymaster with mixed results. Let's say mixed results.
Cool. So just getting back to elliptical photography, the only aircraft with an AJ code in my Mustangs is Ding Hao, which is a Gemini P51B. So yes, it's massively underrepresented. If I look at the groups of Mustangs, which are all grouped in their fighter groups, because that's how much of a dork I am, this is the only one that represents AJ. So yes, the 354th is massively represented. What I would suggest doing, going to Corgi's webpage, and you can actually send a suggestion off to them. If you've got any pictures of particular aircraft which have a great story behind them, send it off to them, because the tendency is to go with the tried and trusted, the known, the really big known aircraft.
Well,
it's nice
by
to
that
hear different
rationale,
stories.
if everybody collectively was to send them a picture of Johnny Johnson's Dan Buster Lancaster, do you think we'd finally bloody well get it?
No, it's on the agenda, mate, but they're just waiting for him to die first, isn't they?
Yeah,
Let the mission vote on
absolutely.
it. So,
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely.
Johnny, if you're listening, I really apologise. Right, here we go.
I think probably it's going to be a chastise chastise 80 jobby,
Yeah.
potentially, but
Yeah, I
we'll
think
see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So the next question was from Jamie McGaffigan. Hopefully I said your surname right, Jamie, who's a regular contributor. Do you think Corgi outlet prices are more realistic? From my experience, I've never been down there, but a lot of my mates have, and they got some real bargains actually down at the Hornby, whatever centre is called, the historic centre, wherever it is, down in Margate or Ramsgate, wherever it is. Yes, much more realistic, really good
Yeah, I
bargains
don't know.
down
I
there.
don't know if he says, when he says outlet, I mean the stuff on the website that's advertised as outlet, or the actual visitor centre
Actual
in
visitor
Margate.
centre. Go to the actual visitor centre. They're much cheaper. You know, you get
Yeah.
20% off and stuff like that. I know. So calling him out. He's not been on tonight, the bugger. But Elliot, he lives down that way now. Big Elliot Marsh, who's one of my airshow buddies. He goes there quite often because he lives down on the southeast coast now, and he's got some absolutely tremendous bargains down there. So yeah, when I say tremendous bargains, they're talking like 20 quid off a 172 fighter, but that's decent in my eyes. You know, that's less. You haven't got to pay for postage on top of that. So in reality, you're saving 25 quid. So yes, if you're down that way, it's worth taking a few quid. And also, if you are down that way, you've got the Battle of Britain museum as well down at Hawkinge, which has got a fantastic selection of model and die-cast aircraft, and that's on my hit list as well. You'll be able to get releases like Little Mischief and stuff like that down there, the 172 Sunderlands, and they're not at groundbreaking prices either, so well worth popping in there and obviously giving them their support as well, because it's a great little place to go. So
Now, Hornby did for a time have an outlet store somewhere, like a separate store, but I forget where it is now.
Swindon, I think it was.
Swindon, yeah, possibly. Well, one of the shopping centres, but that's gone.
Yeah.
So
moving on to Michael Lowe, our World War One expert. He was moaning about the Bristol fighter. He's talking about return on investment with another scheme. I think it'll be coming. I just think you've got to remember they both overlapped each other as well. The first release and the second release. One of the best moulds that Corgi have knocked out over the last few years. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
they are big. They are big buggers as well.
Oh yeah, they're massive in terms of the size. I'm just looking at them now behind me compared to the Albatross. They're pretty much twice the wingspan. So I think we expect to see one of them, I would imagine, in the middle of next year, or maybe towards the end of next year to Armistice. In 2023, maybe, I don't know, it's just a guess. But he's really happy with both the World War Ones. He said obviously the Fokker was a bit curveball, but he liked it. Mark Harbour has asked, will they ever fix the wing gap on the Sopwith Canal? I don't think they will until they do a new mould. I think you spoke about it earlier, didn't you? You said it's the Spitfire World War One, first real proper release at World War One in 148. I don't think you'll see. They're certainly not going to tinker with the mould now. They'll either do a new mould or just let this one run. I just don't know if there's the.
I don't know if I suppose either of you did both watch the episode of Hornby A Model World where he sort of pulled out the camel, and this is what we were doing sort of 10 years ago. But yeah, it's not just a wing gap. The struts on that one are quite off-putting. They're like really, really thick, much thicker than what they need to be. So the
it's
last
172
one,
technology, isn't it? It was 172
Yeah.
technology on 148.
So the last one I believe was Billy Barker, and that was the one with you had the black cowling, and that was 2017, I think.
It's 5 years. That right?
Because that was with the Kemp, the Fritz Kemp Drydecker as well that year. So yeah, 2017 or 2016. I'm pretty sure it's 2017. But yeah, that's 5 years. It's been absent, and it's such an important part of World War One for many people. That is, you go to Shuttleworth. That's the one. So iconic, and I
maybe
think
2024 because it's 90 years from the start of World War One, isn't it? So
it really
90, 110
it
years.
does
Sorry,
need
my brain.
if they revised it and it came out really nice, I would be perfectly happy spending 70, 80 quid on one all day, even though it's not massive. If they revised it and they got it as nice as the up to the standard of the Bristol, I would go for that, definitely. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
So on the next one, which ties in nicely to World War One, Austin Newman over on Facebook has asked, will Corgi consider World War One in 172? I think for me, the answer is no. Why would they? Absolutely not. Too small.
They'd be absolutely tiny.
Yeah,
Big tiny.
Is just pony in comparison. You know, the size of it, the scale of it, if you want to do detail like rigging and stuff like that, you can't do it in 172. As much as I hate mixing scales, I'm quite happy to put 148 World War One in my collection because it just looks right, the detail is right, and it's, you know, it's a banker for Corgi, isn't it? It's probably the new Luftwaffe, dare I say. It's the one now that really, really shifts. But I just can't. It just be a bad investment in my eyes.
Agreed.
Cool. Right. So on to the last question, and this is probably one for James. And it's not another train. You've just asked it tonight. New tool Lancaster.
Ooh.
No. They won't do that for a while.
I don't think it would make much difference, to be honest with you. I think the Lancaster's a great tool. It's not gappy yet. It's certainly not gappy yet.
It's a good tooling, and as long as we're all still buying them.
Yeah, I was about to make that very point.
Then they'll just keep using it. I think there's other planes out there that would be more worthy of the tooling.
B-17 is one, I think.
Yeah, well,
B-17 is showing its age.
Yeah, the B-24, the cockpit is
Bombay.
Yeah,
no Bombay in the B-24.
Yeah,
Mosquito.
Yeah, Mozzie's going to be top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I sincerely hope that rather than sort of bring in as much as people want to see an ME 410 or whatever, I honestly believe the money is better spent revisiting some of these subjects.
Yeah, try and
yeah.
I think if they can tie in a new Mosquito mould to the point where a Mosquito actually hits this country, which is potentially 2 years away-ish, if everything's going to plan, but it's all gone very quiet, then that would be a great tie-in. But we talk about tie-ins, don't we? And they don't seem to. Yeah. They're too slow to react. Where
I mean, the shape of the current one is not. It's not terrible, but
no, it's good.
But in 2022, it doesn't really pass, does it?
Especially at £80 or whatever it is.
It's actually quite good, to be fair. The shape of the Mozzie is good, and the fact that it comes with the radiators that you can chop and change at will is good. The undercarriage is what lets it down. It's the undercarriage, the guns, and the tail.
The bomber variant's a lot better in that sense.
Yeah,
you'd have to look at those
again. It's a 20-year-old mould that's been knocking out now, and obviously it's at twice maybe even 3 times the price it was when it first came out. That has a massive effect as well, because if you're paying £80, you want top notch. So the danger, in my eyes, is that a 172 could quite easily become a 148, which completely rules me out.
I think it all depends on which one you get. So the Night Fighter Mozzie and any of the ones that have got black on them actually look better because they hide the gaps.
Yeah,
because
completely agree.
Whereas the I've only got 3 of them in my collection, and one of them is the Elvington Mosquito that's down at East Kirkby now.
Yep.
And I've got that in my collection because it's part of a theme I collect, but it's a terrible, terrible Mosquito. It's you can see all the gaps, the joins. It's showing its age now, well and truly.
Yeah, another one, for candidates, P38. So Miss Virginia was as gappy as God knows what. And then thankfully the one after that was half decent. It's a funny old game, isn't it? Diecast, it really is. It really is. Yeah. But there's so much. I mean, Michael did say they've got a 5 to 6 year plan, which will involve new moulds. And moulds that are going to make them money. Not a condor, hopefully, at any point. It's the first time we've mentioned it. An hour and a half in, and it's the first time I mentioned epoxy condor.
Yeah, I thought we'd have maybe gone the whole thing without mentioning the bloody condor.
It drives me mental. Honestly, it drives me mental. Yeah, I want a condor. But what are you going to? A, where are you going to put the bloody thing? And B, you buy one and go, yeah, that'll do. And it's great and all that, but the condor.
But you've got to sort of look around and think, right, what Corgi planes need a new mould? The Mosquito does, but you've got the likes of, say, the Gladiator doesn't, the Swordfish doesn't, the Corsair doesn't really need it.
No, but I think it's damaged now by the Corsair, isn't it? Didn't they chop the wings off to make the British variant? And I don't think they can undo that.
Oh, I don't know. I've no idea. I mean, the Dakota is a fantastic mould.
Yeah, it lacks dihydral though. Apparently, people won't buy it.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only thing with those. The last one, That's All Brother, which I've got, was actually all right. But yeah, you can if you look at it, then you look at.
That's the only one I've got.
If you look at it, then you look at a photo of a DAC, even on the ground, the dihedral it's slightly off. There was some discussion on the forum of whether you could maybe bend the wings, but it would just
£150 model trying to stand there like that.
it would go, but it's nice. Despite the lack of, it displays well, just in spite of that. So yeah, especially the revisions they made, because I think on some of the earlier ones, the one they had for 2014 D-Day anniversary, forget what it was called now, but anyway, no, the US one.
You got Buzz Buggy.
That's
the Membry one. It's probably the Membry one.
I think it was the band. It's Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
Band of Brothers.
Yeah, that's the Membry one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best one. You've got the Band of Brothers one, yeah.
It's got a name on that. Bear with me. I'll have a little stand right next to it.
You've got the Lord VC
L4.
one.
Just L4. It hasn't got a name. It's not got a
Right.
name on it. It's just L4.
Yeah, but L4, I think it's called, is it like 69 or something? Because it's got the little number, the little white number on the door at the back. In chalk. Well, it's obviously not chalk on the model itself, but yeah, on the jump door at the back, there's a little tiny white number that they were written onto it.
Oh, okay. I've not noticed that.
But from that to That's All Brother, they corrected the windscreen, they corrected the pitos as well. So yeah, it's a really good release, but the dihedral's just slightly off. But it's not to say it doesn't have any, because it does have some, just not enough. It's not completely flat, but yeah, it's still nice. I sort of forgive it of that, because where else are you going to find a 172 Dakota done to the same standard? You just not.
Oh, agreed. I really like the DACs. I think the DACs are awesome.
I'm guessing the next one will be Night Fright. Night Fright needs to be done, but obviously they're still busy restoring that Coventry.
As long as it's not BBMF. The new BBMF one is awful.
Yes, it's Southeast Asian, but it's just...
Yeah.
It's a nothing.
It's got to be done. They need to do it because, you know, you have to remember that side of it. Yeah, but it is a bit naff. As far as new toolings go, B17 would have to be top of the list. Have to be. Everything else is all right for the time being. But yeah,
it's the same. It's the same argument with the Lank though, right? Because as long as they can still shift them at 150 plus, are they going to do it?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the only big issue with the Lank was the undercarriage. And then with the newer Lanks, they fixed it. There's new undercarriage that's really, really sturdy.
Yeah.
And all in one piece.
Don't move around.
That was the biggest drawback with the Lank, was the undercarriage. And they fixed that. Whereas as a whole, the Lancaster looks really solid. You know, it's a really good bit of kit.
Yeah.
You've just got to look at the new Dambuster ones. You know, they're solid.
Holds up, doesn't it? And they've got the new parts on it, like the photo etched aerial on the PA474. So yeah, they're still doing. I think they put one of those on Just Jane as well, possibly on the Canadian one. I'm not sure, but yeah, it still holds up really nicely. And yeah, I think as long as those are still okay, that there's going to be a huge reluctance in the boardroom meetings to go, right, we need to sort it again.
Well, you need 3 releases to break even on it, don't you? So yeah, they still always sell. So I think someone said previously, the Lancaster was a breadwinner. It was, but when it's getting close to 200 quid, probably not so much, because it rules so many people out of getting it now. If I've got 10 Lancasters, why would I want an 11th when I want to splash 200 quid in it? That's where you've got to look at. And it's not as simple as selling one of your existing Lancasters to pay for it.
Yeah. Actually, what on earth would you price it? What would you price a Super Fortress, a B29, or a Condor?
It's going to be north of 300 quid, isn't it? Let's be honest. Unless you're going to include lots of plastic in it. But even the Vulcan that includes lots of plastic is 250 quid. So you're looking over 300 quid.
And some of this stuff is getting into the realms of the ridiculous, like the new Caliber Wings MiG 31. Yeah. That's getting on 250 quid.
How much the Hustler going to be? It's a beautiful model, but it's going to be, if it's not 300 quid, I'll be absolutely shocked.
Yeah, it's a massive aircraft.
Yeah,
huge.
And actually,
there we go.
How many schemes do we get out of a Hustler?
About one.
It's silver.
Yeah.
People go, do the Vietnam green and green camo. It didn't exist. It was just a scheme.
Fancy.
It's a bit like TSR2. Corgi got 3 models out of the TSR2. There was only 3 made. So I mean, they're done now. They're not as if they can bring that out again and go, yeah, we'll do a what-if scheme on it. I tell you, we'll do a desert scheme, or we'll do a red flag scheme, or we'll do a winter scheme. It didn't exist. They're just potential or wannabe creative schemes, Korg,
you're going to retool. I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar that the next retooling Corgi do is the Mark 5 Spitfire.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
It has to be.
As Sam said, they don't need to retool the heavies if people are still buying them. Nobody's buying the Mark 5 Spitfire because they are just so bad. And there are so many schemes that you could do for RAF.
Can they implement it into the Mark 9 though? This is the thing. I mean, they've not divulged all that information about the Mark 9 becoming the Mark 11, the Mark 16, the Mark 12.
All they've got to do is change the wing and the engine, the propeller. That's it. So if Corgi have implemented that, then that's awesome.
I mean, the 14 with a new canopy would be fantastic, and that's basically, you wouldn't really need to do too much more to it, I don't think.
No.
So yeah, I mean, maybe the canopy is an area that could be looked at, like with the P40.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
only slightly off. It's not like, I mean, some people go mental.
No,
but it's minor for me. It's not important enough.
It's not terrible, but if it was just slightly enlarged, you'd have a wonderful model on your hands. You really would.
What Corgi could do is, if they were to do a Griffin, retool a Griffin that was capable of a teardrop canopy or not, is to just cast half the fuselage.
Yeah.
And that would be your low back. The top half of the fuselage, they could just make plastic.
Yeah.
Which would then cover your Malcolm mode. I'm sure people wouldn't complain at that if a centimetre of their fuselage was plastic, if it meant they got a new Spitfire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what they do.
Right, gents. I'm going to wrap it up because we've been on here an hour and 3/4 now.
Absolutely.
I really, really enjoyed it. I can't believe that we've gone nearly 2 hours just chatting about this. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in, contributed and watched all the way through. I'll save this and put it on the YouTube channel and put it on the Facebook channel for those who don't have the facility to watch it on Instagram. Look, as always, I feel like a broken record saying this, and I really enjoy these. I always have to do more of them. Sorry, for some reason, the A word got picked up on the speaker over there, hence the reason that loud noise. So that really, really privileged to do this with like-minded people, and so many of you guys tuning in and listening and contributing as well. I keep saying we need to do it more often, but we need to find something to do it. But I'll chat to you two more offline about that.
We'll do another one when the 109 is released.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Just
then we
a
can
quick
either
half-hour job.
apologise for getting it wrong, or we can rip it to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I still keep saying to Michael about getting him and David on, but it's proved quite troublesome. So I'll ask again, but I'm not going to pester too much because I don't want it to be negative. Because actually, I think tonight's been overridingly positive. It's been constructive. It's been objective. That's exactly what it should be.
You do have to exercise a certain degree of fairness, and I feel like we have been fair. So.
And I've not called out certain people, like certain manufacturers, and put screenshots of what they've written and banned them and stuff like that. So it's been quite an enjoyable evening. So look, cheers, lads. I'm going to get back to bed and get ready for work in the morning.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully we'll do this again soon, and I'll speak to you later. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.